Hello, hello, and happy Friday. It's me, Virginia, and I appreciate you coming back to listen to another episode of the Living on the Verge podcast. We are going to cover 90 Day Hunt for Love today, episode 3, because you guys, it just got away from me on Tuesday's podcast. There's no other excuse. I had the notes, I had watched the show, and when I wrapped it all up and I went back and looked at my notes, I realized that I didn't cover it. So I'm going to do that for us really quickly. But before I do, I just wanted to mention that we're getting ready to take a reality TV hiatus. I try to do this once a year, spend, a few weeks, maybe a month away from all of the rigors and craziness of the reality TV world that otherwise consume me the other 11 months of the year. And I try to do it during the summer when my grandkids are out of school so that I can spend more time with them. And of course, usually it involves the fact that we happen to be taking a vacation of some sort, usually. And this year's no exception. In the next few weeks, we will be heading out to Europe, as I've been talking about since I started this podcast. And I will be covering it all and bringing you along with us. But for now and until then, this will be the last podcast where I cover any reality TV on a Friday. Tuesdays, we should still be able to take care of all of the regular things that we're covering on Tuesday, but no promises. We'll work that out over the weekend. In the meantime, let's move on to the 90 Day Hunt for Love, episode 3. So, Elise, our non 90 day gal, approaches Rob and actually apologizes for how she behaved in the last episode. She tells him that she's super insecure and that she's really just shy, and I call bullshit. Rob's a little scared of her, and so am I. Rob apologizes, and he said he didn't mean anything by it if she felt super offended by the whole rating her a 3 comment. So they both agreed to try to push past it and see where things go. Rob's a little reluctant, and he contemplates continuing, but nonetheless, that's where we leave things. Then we have Tanya, who's the life coach or love therapist, something like that, takes little Colty aside to help him a little bit more. She tells him she noticed that he was struggling a little bit on the flirting during the flirting exercise that they did. But she tells Colt that she thinks he has more skills than he realizes. And he tells her that he likes May and Cortney. Well, Tanya tells him, ask one of them out. So now this whole thing is getting a little bit complicated because we have Colt with a T and we have Cole with an E. Now, Cole with the E is the one who keeps flirting with Jennifer. He's the guy from Orange County somewhere, and he's a non 90 day guy. But he's definitely getting his share of screen time because he shows up with a huge floating fruit basket for Jennifer. And Jennifer is just super smitten by the whole encounter. And then they start talking about sexual escapades, and Jennifer is trying to fill out just how kinky and freaky Cole really is. And they start to talk about it, and he says he's not telling her much more because he doesn't want to scare her away. I think he's saying what she wants to hear. No offense, Cole, but you come across a little vanilla. Anyway, everybody heads out to the club for the evening, and Elise tells Usman she wants to see where things can go with Rob. And then Usman tells Elise that he feels the same way about Cortney. I don't know. Do you think that Cortney and Usman should make another run at it, given their history? Well, I guess we're going to have to figure out what happens as the season unravels. But anyway, Tim's having trouble with the fact that Jennifer is there still. He just can't seem to get past it. But interestingly enough, you know how Tim comes across a certain sort of a way? Now, I personally like him, but he is not one of the most liked people in the 90 Day verse, if you would, really think about it. He's just marching to his own drummer. Like the boots that he wears to this shindig or outing or whatever you want to call it just set him apart from everybody else. He's wearing like a relatively normal shirt that's striped and then some jeans and then some really knee tall boots where he has his jeans tucked in. And he's always had his own flair for fashion. So I don't think that that makes him feminine in any way. I don't even think it makes him metro in this day and age, but that's just me. We find out about Tim, though, that he doesn't drink, not because, he's got alcohol issues or because he's some fuddy duddy, just because it makes him sick. And then he doesn't dance just because he's Tim. So, whoo, sounds like an exciting date, Mr. Timothy. Usman is really into Cortney and basically says he's going to go after anyone who tries to go after her. But yet he won't lock her in. It's like he's putting her on the side. He doesn't tell her he's into her. He tells everybody else so that I guess he could still make his play on everybody else. Like Usman really, really thinks very highly of himself. As this show is unraveling, I'm starting to see him really, pump himself up. He talks about how handsome he is all the time. And not that he's not, but, a little humility wouldn't hurt you, Senor Usman. Well, Colty doesn't like the fact that Usman thinks that Courtney's already on lock for him. And Tim even says that sometimes Usman comes off a little bit aggressive, but, I guess he wants what he wants. Colt orders a drink for Courtney as soon as they get into the club. And girl after my own heart orders a vodka soda with lime. She makes hers a double. At the club, Jennifer is grinding all over Cole with the E. And not sure what Colty is doing, but geez Louise, I like Tiffany's description of it all. And then Chantel steps in to try and save Colt from continuing to make an ass out of himself. And I thought she's being a really good friend in that moment. And she tells him that he's not attracting women that way. Well, Rob approaches Jen and they start to flirt immediately. Jennifer asks Rob about Elise, and he tells her he's more attracted to her than he is to Elise. I guess Rob will say anything he needs to. To be fair, he is a little spooked by Elise, so maybe he does want to pivot. Rocky, aka Pornstash, does handstands in the middle of the party for some unknown reason. And Tiffany tells us that she still really likes Rocky, even though she is enjoying Carlo as well. I don't know. Are you team Pornstash or team Carlo? I am just team Tiffany. I'm just glad she's having a good time finally. While Cole steps in to interrupt Rob and Jennifer during their chat, and he definitely goes on to try to dissuade Jennifer from tipping the scales towards Rob. He's not feeling it, and he's not going to let her go without a fight, it seems. So we'll see what happens. Then Tim approaches Rob and warns him against mixing it up with Jennifer. He thinks it's better for him than hanging with Elise, who coincidentally just happens to walk up to the group and stares straight into the camera. Did you catch that? And then she nonchalantly starts to talk to Rob and the group. Rob admits that the banter they have is better tonight than the 2 minutes that they had in the hot tub yesterday. And Elise starts to get offended. She takes exception to that, and her whole attitude just switches. She continues to be hung up on the 3 rating, and he just doesn't understand their dynamic at all. Honestly, neither do I. She almost had him, and then she screws it up. She tries to end up having the upper hand by telling Rob to go find someone else and keep her name out of his mouth. Listen, honey, I don't think he ever wanted any part of anything of hers in his mouth after that first night. So, Elise, you're, beating a dead horse. I think that the ship has sailed with Rob, so you might have screwed it up by getting all activated again. So now we have Colt trying to figure out how to ask a person out for the first time in his 44 years of life. Are you serious? He's never asked someone out in person before. I know I sound flabbergasted, but I mean, the guy was married twice. Well, that tells you a lot about it. But anyway, he walks up to May and he's trying to flirt with her. And she seems like she's trying to give him the opening. And then he misses the cue and he starts sweating profusely. So, sweaty mess that he does invite her out on a date. He finally gets it out. And no sooner does he get it out that she tramples all over her words to tell him that she thinks they vibe, but she doesn't know if she could date him. So she just flat out rejects him. And you could tell that he just feels really low because of the rejection. And so he, we see him on, a couple of seconds later in a scene with Cortney, who seems a little bit more open, but she tells us that she saw the rejection happening. So is she just being nice? Honestly, if you ask me, I think that Cortney and Colt are super cute and would make a really great couple. I think he would really admire her and give her the attention and the flattery that she is longing for. And I think that she could give him the sense of love and belonging that he really needs and that he hasn't gotten from any of the other relationships that I've seen him be in. Well, Tiffany's flirting big time with Rocky, who tells her that he finds her warm and loving and kind to everyone. I agree with you, Pornstash. I do believe that aura that Tiffany gives off is warm and loving. And I've even had some interactions with her on Instagram recently, and she comes across that way there as well. So you're not wrong. We'll see who's going to snag this girl. She's definitely one to snag. I think it would be cool if they would follow the stories of the non-90-day people as well, because given some of those dance moves on the floor, I got distracted watching the background as I often do. And all the flashing around and all of the things that I picked up on, it seems like there's some connections being made there. Cortney drops the bomb about the cuckold rumor to Tim in front of Tiffany. We knew this was coming. Tiffany thinks Cortney's stirring the pot. I agree. And Tim says he's been trying to defend his sexuality for 6 years and that he is not gay. I find this highly offensive. I find this wrong to do to any human, gay, straight, green, white, purple. Listen, what in the hell business is it of anybody's what people get off on? I don't understand why the 90-day universe has been hounding this guy for 6 years, according to him. And almost as long as that, he's been on my radar that, his sexuality has been questioned. How would you like it? I just don't think that it's the right thing to do. I think it's mean. Well, Tim finally goes up to Jennifer. He says he can't take it anymore and he wants to talk about the strippers. And she gets super activated and goes from 0 to 1,000,000 in 3.seconds. And honestly, he admits that he got her the male stripper. And then she says, you already admitted it. You should be okay with it. Well, when he is not getting as pissed off as I guess she wanted him to get, she just flips out and starts screaming at him. And it's not attractive, Jennifer. It's not attractive. You're showing your ghetto fabulousness, and it's not fabulous at all. I find it really offensive that you feel that because he is approaching you, that your response and your defense is, I'm doing it to you now. How does it feel? I mean, this is just bullshit. It sounds super high school. But thankfully, we have Chantel, who's not having any of it, and literally steps up to her face and tells her to back off of Tim. So then what does she do? Jennifer turns her anger towards Chantel. This is how the episode starts to come to an end and things are starting to pop off, but Tim has pretty much had it with Jennifer, trying to ruin his hunt for love experience. And I'm Team Tim on this. Like, Jennifer, if you're so past it, then why are you so preoccupied with it? We have a lot of loose cannons on this show for sure. Next week's previews show us that things are going to get very complicated because we see Usman sleeping with Cortney, like in a bed, just asleep in a bed. And then Usman and Colt, they have words. So I'm really liking this show. I am happy to be taking my reality TV break, but this is one that I'm going to kind of be wondering what is going on with. The Valley episode 10, on the other hand, it was juicy, mainly because we got to see Jax out of rehab. But to be honest with you, this is one that I'm okay to take the reality TV break from. I love this cast. Most of them. I like the show a lot, but I think it's just dragging on. And I looked up after the end of this one how many episodes are remaining, mainly because I feel like we've had a few filler episodes and that this should have been more like a 10 or 12 episode season when I am seeing that it is 14 episodes. So I don't know how I feel about that. But let me tell you about episode 10 and then you guys could decide for yourself. Either way, I'm taking a break after this one. So I'll pick up and let you know what we missed, but I'm not going to be following it week to week for the next few weeks. The episode opens with Jesse picking Jax up from rehab. And honestly, you guys, we're not even a quarter of the way through the scene where Jax is already activated. They're in the car and he's already pissed off because nobody visited him for 30 days, not even his wife of 10 years. Jax, the same wife that you were flipping tables and throwing chairs and punching holes in the walls just a mere 31 or 32 days ago? What the fuck do you expect? I'm already concerned about whether or not Jax has had any growth. And honestly, if I would have known all of this when I saw the season premiere episode with Jax in person, I don't know that I would have had the conversation with him that I did. And I don't know that I would have believed the conversation that we did have. But I'm getting activated myself, so let's just move on. Jax tells Jesse that he found out Brittany had a party at his bar and he called it Brit's. And he feels that there's only so much that he could take and that he still has the right to be angry. Yes, you have the right to be angry. But how you handle that anger is what is going to tell us whether or not you've grown at all and whether or not you deserve to be on our TV screens. Because honestly, Jax, I feel like you're literally like on your last straw here. I don't think anybody's going to put up with another season of this gaslighting, manipulative nonsense. Well, they head to their house so that Jax can pick up the clothes, and he doesn't take it well when he sees that there are bags of trash in the garage containing all of his clothes. He says, bags of trash for me because she thinks I'm trash. Way to make it all about you. Maybe she just didn't want your stuff in the house anymore. But again, I understand where that would be hurtful, but it's just hard for me to have any sympathy for Jax because of how he maneuvers. While at the house, Jax tells us that he's such an amazing human because he's not taking dishes or even the couch. But when Jesse tells him that he's hosting a party for Benji, who is Zach's boyfriend, as a favor to Zach, Jax essentially invites himself and tells us he wants to go out and he wants to see some people too. Have you guys ever encountered someone who is recently out of rehab? Because I've never known anyone to get out of rehab or even like a procedure or a hospital or even an elective same day procedure where the first thing they think about is going to a party. So clearly Jax misses being on camera and is not willing to miss one more day. He's going to that damn party, invite or not. Aaron and Michelle are at Aaron's cute little house in the next scene. I love his kitchen. Oh my gosh, that's so cute with the blue and the white. But he makes some humongous steaks. Did you catch that? He was making those steaks in the green egg. Did they eat all of that beef? Neither of them seem like very large people, and yet those were some really big steaks. So I'm not judging. I just think it's a lot of protein. Well, they get to talking about Michelle's mom and the fact that, she's not doing well and Jesse won't let Isabella see her. And I find the whole scene really sad just because we know that Michelle's mom's not doing very well. And she doesn't elaborate much about her side, but we get Jesse's side later, so we'll talk about it then. So the guys are all heading to dinner at Smokehouse in Burbank for Jax because he's out of rehab to have a dinner with him. I don't know why. I don't even care. I'm more interested in telling you guys about Smokehouse in Burbank. Established near the end of World War II in 1946 across the street from Warner Brothers Studio, this is a steakhouse that features the world's greatest garlic bread, which will set you back $8 for a full order. And the shrimp cocktail that I find incredibly delicious looking is $16. You could get a rack of baby back ribs for $32. And it seems that their slow smoked prime rib has been their house specialty since 1946. And their smokehouse cut will set you back $42, while their regular cut will set you back $36. So that's what I found most interesting and exciting about the fact that these guys were all getting out, because I got to see them have a dinner. But the first thing that Jason does when they get there, he and Danny walk in almost at the same time, and he tells Danny, look, you and I aren't okay, but this is about Jax tonight. He is referring to the fact that Danny had sent him a text message earlier apologizing. And basically, he wanted to back burner it for another time. He's talking about how Danny behaved at the Brits function that we saw in last week's episode. During the dinner, Dave is there. He's Jax's business partner. He tells the group that he takes exception with them commandeering Jax's bar. And Jax tells everybody, with his sudden, wellness and his wealth of knowledge and his degree in therapy, that it's not drinking or drugs that are his problem, that it's something underneath that is compelling that behavior. He did not say it as articulately as I just said it, but anyway, I paraphrase. Furthermore, he says, he is not saying that he will never drink again, which, having had recovering people in my life, raises a red flag. This is just too soon after leaving rehab for him to already be building in his excuses. But again, I do not have the expertise that Jax has, so I will defer to him. Jax, you just went too hot straight out of the gate, and I'm not liking it. But again, I'm focused on the shrimp cocktail that looks delicious. While I'm focusing on the shrimp cocktail, Jax pivots the conversation to talk about the Santa Barbara trip. A production planted lead storyline question, no doubt. Regardless, Jax happens to still be in the know. He starts to needle Danny about, you guessed it, the tequila in the closet. What was he actually doing in rehab and in therapy? He tells us he was in classes 7 hours a day or something like that. I don't think so. He has too much intel. And if he was, then he was not internalizing any of it or really sitting quietly with any of the things that he learned, because there is no way in the world that he could be all up on what was going on in Santa Barbara and watching on the cameras and all of those things and still actually gaining anything from this rehab. So, he was on Watch What Happens Live, and he says he's 201 days sober. I am not going to doubt his sobriety. It's not my place. Other people have said maybe not and questioned it a little bit. And I happened to just notice Tom Schwartz's face when he gave the number. I'll leave that there. Jason tells Danny, let's talk about it all later. But he tells the table basically that Danny was blacked out. And then our new rehab counselor, Mr. Taylor, tells Danny that he's no one to be talking, but Danny does have an issue. Okay, Jax. Jason tells Danny he doesn't want to stop drinking, and that's why he's saying that he doesn't have a problem. Jax seems to be finding comfort in the fact that everybody else has issues as well. But Jason tells Danny point blank, you can't regulate, dude. A lot of people have that issue. Does that make them alcoholics? I don't know. Again, maybe we should consult our newly crowned therapist, Jax Taylor. Let's move on. We have Benji's surprise welcome home party to deal with, and it's at Jesse's house. So, can we talk about the door for a minute? First of all, the house we know is right by Chateau Marmont, and it's like a big deal and all of that. But why do we have all the knobs and the non-functioning knobs on the door? And I found it entertaining that everybody had trouble getting in. I thought it was hilarious, especially when Jax shows up, but we'll get to that. Remember, Jax invited himself, and Brittany's there, and she doesn't know that he's coming. We know that Jax hasn't seen Cruz since he's been out of rehab, according to Brittany. And it got me thinking, what about that tear-filled video that you sent from rehab about the 1 hour that you were going to get to see your son and how happy you were about it just a couple weeks back? If there was any truth to that, certainly trying to see Cruz, figuring out a way to see your son or at least FaceTime with him or something would have been your number one priority, and certainly ahead of a haircut and Botox. But again, I judge. Let's move on. Benji gets there and they walk in and it's super cute, but then Zach immediately gets disappointed because he notices that after all of the efforts they went through to arrange the surprise and have everybody in the back of the house when they walked in, they left the sign right in the front. So the surprise got ruined. Now, to be honest with you, I don't think Benji's surprise was actually ruined until Zach said anything. Maybe Benji would have just thought he got like a sign made for him and that was a nice gesture. But Zach told him all about it. So I want to talk about surprises. Have you ever had a surprise ruined for you? And how do you feel about it? Are you one of the people in this world that does not like surprises, like one of my sons? It's funny because it always seems that it's those people who don't like surprises that are surrounded by people who love surprising people. And so eventually you just have to admit to yourself, I'm one of those people that love surprising people. And at one point, I just had to accept the fact that my son does not like surprises. And even though I wanted to surprise him, whether it be something as simple as where I was taking him to dinner, I wasn't recognizing the amount of stress that it put on him to not know where we were going. He didn't know what to wear. He would worry about what he was going to eat that day because he didn't know what he was having for dinner. And none of those things ever occurred to me as the surpriser. So I urge you guys to get to know the people in your lives. Ask them if you don't know, do you like being surprised? I, on the other hand, I think I like being surprised, but to be fair, I've never actually been surprised in my life. For one thing, people really have not tried, but the 2 times that they did try, one was when I was, I think like 13 or 14, don't quote me on the age. And the other time was when I was pregnant with my first son. So the 13 or 14-year-old story was a surprise party that my mom was trying to pull off. It was just more of a family gathering kind of thing that we used to have when I was growing up. And it was because I had told my mom that I had never been surprised. And it was really sweet of her to try to do it. And one of my cousins told me. So what do? Are you one of those people that tells the person that you know about the surprise? I didn't. My mom to be honest, did not really have a lot of birthday parties for us growing up. We had our fair share, but it wasn't something that was an every year thing. So the fact that she was going out of her way to do this, I didn't want to break her heart by ruining it. And, so I just played along. And I guess I was pretty good because I don't think that anybody knows that. Certainly not my mom until now. I don't think she listens to the podcast, so we're probably still okay. But the second time was when I was pregnant with my first son, and my cousin was also pregnant at the same time, my cousin Corrine, and my Nina was having a baby shower for her, and I got invited, or so I thought. It was actually a baby shower for me. And honestly, I did not have a clue. And this one would have been pulled off to perfection had it not been for my comadre Diane, who thought it would be something that I would want to know because I would not want to be surprised. Maybe I would choose a different dress, or maybe, I was devastated. I cried when she told me because I didn't want to know. I thought, my God, somebody's finally pulling off a surprise party for me. So nonetheless, I played along that time too, you guys. And I feel guilty about that one. I showed up with the gift for my cousin Corrine. She was there and pregnant. So obviously the gift was not for naught. But all of my friends were there. My family was there. Honestly, I was super grateful for all the effort, but I was so disappointed that I knew about it because it's not often that people take the time to, take you into account. And it was such a special moment. It was my first child. So it's a surprise I could never get back. And I was really salty with my comadre Diane for a long time about it, but I have alas moved on. All of that to say, I doubt anybody will ever be able to pull off a surprise party for me in my lifetime. They haven't tried so far, and the 2 times they have tried, they did not succeed. So maybe they just gave up. But that's enough talk about surprises. Let's move on to Nia and Janet. As soon as they get to the party, they sit down to try to hash things out, and it doesn't work out. Janet refuses to accept the fact that Nia might be right. And Nia doesn't want to listen to Janet's point of view. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. So are you team Janet or team Nia? Honestly, in this case, I think that Nia definitely is standing up for what she believes in. But I think that Janet does not want to admit that she might be wrong about this. So I go back and forth. In this particular case, I thought Janet walking away was not cool. And I really wish that they could work it out because I just hate that the girls drag it on and on and on. And then you see the guys resolve an issue in one scene or less. Jack shows up. It's time. What's up with the door, though? It was so funny. I mean, if anybody else struggled with the door upon arrival, Jack struggled 10 times longer. Or maybe the others struggled a long time as well and they just cut it out to make this look funnier. It worked, editing. However you slice it, it was fucking hilarious to me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just not feeling Jax these days. Well, apparently neither was anybody else because as soon as he walked in, the entire vibe of the party changed. It got really quiet. And then Kristen kind of walks up to him and says, like, you could look me in the eye. And she starts to have a conversation with him, but only because she approached him. He's acting really weird and he tells her he's really nervous about being there. I would be too. But Kristen tells Jax, like, I really do love and care about you. And, she's pretty rough on him and she speaks her truth, but at the end of the day, you could see that there's love between these two and that Kristen's intentions are good. It's not for a moment on camera. It looked really genuine. And that's what I was noticing. Now, Kristen's still drinking, so I'm not going to guess that she's pregnant at this point, but we got a whole softer different Kristen. And I like her. I said it. I said it out loud. Why is Jax going out of his way to try and tell the cameras that he's not jonesing about drinking when we can clearly see on camera that he's jonesing for a drink? He keeps talking about it. And then even Scott, the life coach, seems a little concerned because he storms away talking about he needs to drink, even if it's tap water. And sure enough, Scott sees him in the kitchen pouring himself a drink of tap water. And Jax still insists that it's anger that's the problem, you guys. It's anger. It's not alcohol and it's not drugs. Luckily, the tap water in LA is pretty good. Nia and Danny talked to Jesse about the fact that Isabella has not seen her grandmother. And this conversation goes very differently than I thought it was going to go. We get Jesse telling his side of the story. And essentially what he is telling us is that he understands. First of all, he had no idea how sick Michelle's mom was. But once he was made aware of it, he understands and he wants Isabella to see her grandmother. But he thinks that it's important that Michelle and Jesse have a conversation with Isabella about mortality and about what her grandma's going through. And I couldn't agree with you more, Jesse. I mean, it totally changed my mind about it all. And he says he doesn't understand how that's going to happen because he and Michelle can't agree on anything. So I don't know if we're going to hear more about this. I did hear that Michelle said on her podcast at one point that Isabella did get to spend time with her grandmother. So it seems like they were able to work this out, back then before it was too late. And thank God for that. Jax and Zach have a chat in Jesse's kitchen, and Zach is coming on strong, but he has every right to. He is befuddled as to what kind of therapy and rehabbing could have been going on when Jack spent most of his time rage texting and uncovering cameras. And oh, by the way, what kind of substandard rehab facility allows you to leave the facility and go home and get more clothes and cover up your wife's cameras? Now, what I noticed while all this is going on is that I want to get one of those pearl necklace collars for my Sophie that Brittany's dog was wearing. Shiny moment. Well, things go well. Things, don't go well as usual. So he says he's going to leave once he talks to Brittany, and he doesn't want Zach going into his bar. And Zach says, well, I was just in your bar and the owners let me in, so you should talk to your partners. Well, Jax tells us that it is definitely Jax's show. It's Jax's show. Jax's show. Not Zach's. Zach says, well, it wasn't for the last 30 days. Who agrees? You guys, I love Zach. I just love him. He is who he is. I've met him in person. I promise you, this is the way he behaves when you're with him in person, when there's a camera in front of him. All Zach, all the time, all the same. That's what we need in people. Be you all the time. I don't know. I'm on a soapbox today. I'm in a righteous mood, perhaps. Okay, girl. Jax tells Jesse he wants to leave. I think he forgot his humble pie apology tour commitment. And, Jesse reminds him about it, but he leaves.
Okay, everybody can unclench their buttholes. Jax Taylor has left the building.
We get to the scene where Jax is going to move, so he brings movers to the house, and Schwartz shows up to help, and they start talking about, their condos living next to one another, and Schwartz refers to it as Jax's Hassle Castle and Schwartz's Sanctuary. So Schwartz apparently is helping, but then all of a sudden they're going to flash back to the ironic and now iconic scene in front of the future Jax's Studio City sign when Schwartz tells Jax that he'll be living next to him and divorced in no time. I think Schwartzy actually manifested it, or maybe he just knows Jax. Admittedly, the scene of Jax moving out of the house, sorry, and taking all of his stuff out of their family home, it's pretty sad. And always, no matter who it is, because a family is being broken up, it's just sad. But then Brittany talks about a computer, which Jax already took, and the fact that she wants him to log out of all the cameras in the house and leave the keys. And then he blows my whole argument by saying that he will not do any of those things until he sees Cruz. The boys urge him not to take that approach because it's not going to work. And it looked to me like Jax took a good amount of stuff, even though he said he wasn't taking anything at all. What do I know? Brittany shows up after they leave, and Janet joins her. They're there to assess the damage, or the status of the house, if you will. And everything is good. She actually makes the comment that it's not that bad until she enters the garage. And then, because it is so empty, the emotion of it all just kind of hits her. And she did think, however, it was notable that Jax turned all the photos of them that were face backwards, facing forward again, and took the time to rehang their wedding photo. So is that control, or is Jax still in love? Well, the scales tipped for me when Brittany was telling Janet about the fact that she had unblocked Jax a few days before, and he had not even attempted to reach out. So this narrative that he's trying to spin, that, you know, he's not been able to see his son, is absurd. It's hurtful and it's cowardly. And then she also, by the way, tells Janet that she filed for a divorce and that the only person who knew so far was Kristen. And then Frank _Dremen. I'm sure he knows too. Well, mainly because he is Jax's alter ego. Frank _Dremen_ is definitely the burner account that Jax Taylor uses. And after last night's show, it automatically and inexplicably went back to private with all 2 of its followers. It's weird. Asher, little baby Asher, his scene with Nia and Danny was just too cute. First of all, the little nightgown thing that he was wearing. Nia and Danny, if you're listening, can you tell me if that's some sort of a new sleep bunting, if it's one of those like heavy blanket things, or is it just a cute little nightgown? Either way, I loved it. But more than that, I thought your son was just absolutely adorable. When he mentions that he's ready for a 4th baby, that was adorable. And then Luke, of course, shows up, and they use the time alone to bond and conspire about the impending proposal that Luke intends to pull off in Maui. And so they're going to pretend that it's Nia and Danny's trip, just to throw Kristen off the scent a little bit. Listen, if you ask me, the proximity of Jax's and Schwartz's house, it's just way too close for comfort. It's way closer than I thought it was. I didn't really realize, I think, when I knew they lived in the same building, that they actually share a common wall and have adjoining balconies, basically. But that patio was super cool. Looks like the place they live in is really neat. Anyway, Jax hears somebody knocking, or the door bell ringing, I can't remember which. And he goes to answer it, and he's getting served. Well, he thinks it's about the podcast, so he kind of blows off the embarrassment with the service agent by saying, oh, it's probably about my podcast. It's actually divorce papers. And Schwartz makes a joke about it, but then it's not a joke. It really is divorce papers. So Jax hands them to him, and he takes a look, and he tells Jax that every intention in there seems to be good, even though the custody of Cruz portion was a little scary. But then Jax reads it, and he says he doesn't know what any of it means. Full legal custody? Well, it means she doesn't want you to have your child. So the fact that you're trying to do this without an attorney, although, you know, it would be ideal, is probably not the best plan for you, since you don't know what full legal and physical custody means. But then just as quickly, August 24th, 2024, we get the announcement, breaking news, Brittany files for divorce from Jax Taylor. And so, for perspective, that was just a couple of days after Jax had gotten out of rehab. So, it's understandable that it's going to take a little bit of time for it to sink in. And as the episode comes to an end, Jax is actually starting to process what is happening. And so that's it. We head to Maui next week. I think we have 14 episodes to this season. So when we come back from our reality TV respite, we will let you know what happened and, of course, cover the engagement and the proposal because we all know that they are now happily engaged. And they also just had, congratulations, Kristen and Luke, on the birth of your beautiful baby girl, Kaya Lily. It looks like they are over the moon. The baby's beautiful. Mama, baby, and Papa are all doing well. And speaking of doing well, I'll tell you who wasn't doing well. Jax Taylor on Watch What Happens Live. He got so much backlash, and so did Bravo. I think people are wondering why he's even being given any screen time whatsoever, considering his behavior, not just this season, but all the way up until this season. And even if he is supposedly 201 days sober, like he said on Watch What Happens Live, I don't think he's changed much. By some of the things he said on the show, it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. So I am going to mosey on down back to Jax's very soon, probably for the season finale, but I'll let you guys know. And at that time, I'll have another conversation with Jax, and I'll let you know where my head's at based on what he said to me. But did you guys hear that Anne Burrell, you know, the Iron Chef, and she's on all the shows. She's really good friends with Michael Simon. She had the blonde hair with the really crazy hairdos all the time. Sometimes her hair would be pink, but most of the time it was just really white blonde. You guys, she passed away at 55 years of age, unexpectedly, of a heart attack. So rest in peace, Anne Burrell, and thanks for all the beautiful meals you gave us. And of course, you know, we're thinking of your family because this is a rough time with such an unexpected passing. And then Tyler Perry, did you guys hear about him? He got hit with a $260 million lawsuit for apparent alleged sexual misconduct, sexual harassment. I don't know. We'll have to look into it a little bit more. But you guys, that's it for this episode. I will be back on Tuesday and we'll cover Next Gen New York City and Real Housewives of Miami. And then we're going to take our reality TV break, but we'll still be bringing you podcasts. We'll have some other things that we will be talking about. And then, of course, we're going to be covering our trip to Europe in full. So I hope you stick with us. I hope that you're enjoying your summer so far. For those of you who have kids in school, I hope they aren't driving you too crazy yet. And take some time to enjoy them because these days go by really, really quickly. And before you know it, you'll be wondering why your kids aren't home driving you bananas every summer like I am. Have a good weekend.